long before the thickening shadows speak of night. The plantations are formed of every English tree, with an old oak or two standing out in the walks. There the glancing foliage obscures heaven as the silken texture of a veil a woman's lovely features. Beneath such fretwork we may indulge in light-hearted thoughts, or if sadder meditations lead us to seek darker shades, we may pass the cascade towards the large groves of pine with their vast undergrowth of laurel, reaching up to the Belvedere. Or on the opposite side of the water, sit under the shadow of the silver-stemmed birch, or beneath the leafy pavilions of those fine old beeches, whose high fantastic roots seemed formed in nature's sport. And the near jungle of sweet-smelling Maraika leaves no sense unvisited by pleasant ministration. Now this splendid scene is reserved for the royal possessor, but in past years, while the lodge was called the Regent's Cottage, or before, when the under-ranger inhabited it, the mazy paths of Chapel Wood were open, and the iron gates enclosing the plantations and Virginia Water were guarded by no Cerberus untamable by sops. It was here, on a summer's evening, that Horace Neville and his two fair cousins floated idly on the placid lake. In that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. Neville had been eloquent in praise of English scenery. "In distant climes," he said, "we may find landscapes grand in barbaric wildness, or rich in the luxuriant vegetation of the south, or sublime in alpine magnificence. We may lament, though it is ungrateful to say so on such a night as this, the want of a more genial sky. But where find scenery to be compared to the verdant, well-wooded, well-watered groves of our native land? The clustering cottages, shadowed by fine old elms, each garden blooming with early flowers, each lattice gay with geraniums and roses, the blue-eyed child devouring his white bread, while he drives a cow to graze. The hedge redolent with summer blooms, the enclosed cornfields, seas of golden grain weltering in the breeze, the stile, the track across the meadow, leading through the copse under which the path winds, and the meeting branches overhead, which give by their dim tracery a cathedral-like solemnity to the scene. The river, winding with sweet inland murmur, and, as additional graces, spots like these, oases of taste, gardens of Eden, the works of wealth which evince at once the greatest power and the greatest will to create beauty. And yet, continued Neville, it was with difficulty that I persuaded myself to reap the best fruits of my uncle's will, and to inhabit this spot, familiar to my boyhood, associated with unavailing regrets and recollected pain. Horace Neville was a man of birth, of wealth, but he could hardly be termed a man of the world. There was in his nature a gentleness, a sweetness, a winning sensibility, allied to talent and personal distinction, that gave weight to his simplest expressions, and excited sympathy for all his emotions. His younger cousin, his junior by several years, was attached to him by the tenderest sentiments, secret long, but they were now betrothed to each other, a lovely, happy pair. She looked inquiringly, but he turned away. "No more of this," he said, and giving a swifter impulse to their boat, they speedily reached the shore, landed, and walked through the long extent of Chapel Wood. It was dark night before they met their carriage at Bishopsgate. A week or two later, Horace received letters to call him to a distant part of the country. It even seemed possible that he might be obliged to visit an estate in the north of Ireland. A few days before his departure, he requested his cousin to walk with him. They bent their steps across the several meadows to Old Windsor churchyard. At first he did not deviate from the usual path, and as they went they talked cheerfully, gaily. The beauteous sunny day might well exhilarate them. The dancing waves sped onwards at their feet. The country church lifted its rustic spire into the bright pure sky. There was nothing in their conversation that could induce his cousin to think that Neville had led her hither for any saddening purpose. But when they were about to quit the churchyard, Horace, as if he had suddenly recollected himself, turned from the path, crossed the greensward, and paused beside a grave near the river. No stone was